Okay, let's get started. Now we are discuss about the Poetics by Aristotle, critical summary and comments. Section 1: Epic poetry, tragedy and comedy, forms of imitative art. Chapter 4: Origin of poetry is in the true natural instinct of desire to imitate and delight in works of imitation. Rhythm and harmony are natural to man. Two species of poetry, tragic and comic. Evaluation of tragedy. It's clear that the general origin of poetry was due to two causes, each part of human nature. Imitation is natural to man from childhood. One of his advantages over the lower animal being this, that he is the most imitative creature in the world and learn his earliest lesson by imitation, and it's also natural for all to delight in work of imitations. The truth of this second point is shown by experience through the objects themselves may be painful to see. We delight to view the most realistic representations of them in art. The forms, for example, of the lowest animals and of dead bodies. The explanation is to be found in a further fact: to learn something is the greatest of pleasures, not only to the philosopher but also to the rest of mankind, however small their capacity for it. The reason for delight on seeing uh, the picture is that one is at the same time learning, gathering the meaning of things. For example, that the man there is so and so. For it, one has not seen the thing before. One's pleasure will not be in the picture as an imitation for it, but it will be due to the executions or the coloring or some similar causes. Imitations then being natural to use as also the sense of harmony and rhythm. The meters being obviously species of rhythm, it was though their original aptitude, and by a series of improvements of the most part gradual on their first effort, that they created poetry out of their improvisations. Poetry, however, soon broken up into two kinds according to individual character of the poets. For the graver among them would represent noble action and those of noble birth, and the meaner sort of the action of the ignobles. The later classes produced in invectives of the actions. The later classes produced invective at first, just as other did hymns and picnics. We know of the no such classifications of poetry on basic of manner. It is on the basic of manner of imitation the poetry is classified as epic or narrative or dramatic. In dramatic representations, the characters do all the speaking and act out the story. In the case of the narrative, the poet speaks throughout in the same characters, some like Homer narrative the story as well as to tell it, though speaking is though. Character how speak in dialogues. In drama, the character do all the speaking. In dramatic poetry, the action is cried out by the dramatic personages. In tragedy, only the dramatic method is used. Drama is the name given to such poems that represent actions. Aristotle makes it clear by given the example of Sophocles, who through the higher characters, he present it like Homer. At the same time, he is like Aristophanes because he is a dramatic poet. Aristotle then sums up the distinctions between the fine arts or the basic of medium, object, and minor. Poetry is different. Poetry is different from the other arts because of its medium. Poetry is the further divided into dramatic and narrative according to the manner of its imitations. Then Aristotle classifies dramatic poetry into tragedy and comedy on the basis of their object of imitation. Aristotle's apprehend, Aristotle apprehend liking or clears the way for the main topic of the poetics at its serious name, the discussions of tragedy. The psychological causes for the origin of poetry. Aristotle notes the origin of poetry are most strictly of dramatic poetry. It will be noticed that Aristotle confined himself largely to dramatic poetry. He considers that the origin of poetry lay in two natural instincts. It will be noticed that he also added a third reason. The first is the natural human impulse to imitate things. This can be observed in child. The second was that of natural delight in recognizing a good work of imitate. It was for it reason that even the imitations of ugly aspect given delight, there is an element of recognition. So the pleasures include that of getting to know or learning something. Thirdly, the instinct for harmony and rhythm lead to the meters of poetry. Thus, we see that origin of poetry lying in our natural instinct. It grew and gradually because what became what it is. The two varieties that poetry broke up into quite early in the course of its development. Poetry broke up into two varieties. The varieties correspondent to the personal characters of the poet. Poets of the series bent to representing the noble personages and their actions in this way for composed the poem by any of the pre-Homeric poets, so there were probably may such writer among them. Instance, however, may be found for Homer downwards, for example, his Margates and the similar poem of other in this poetry of invective in natural fitness brought the iambic meter into use, hence over present terms iambic because it was the meter of their iambic or in against or other one another. The result was that the old poets, because some of them writers of heroic and whole other wrote in iambic words. Homer positions, however, is peculiar just as he was in the series stories. Series styles the poet of poets, standing alone not only though the literary excellence but also though the dramatic characters of his imitations. So he was the first outline for us the general form of comedy by producing not a dramatic inventions but a dramatic pictures of the ridiculous his Margates. Margates, in fact, stands in the same relation to our comedies. as the Iliad and Odyssey to our tragedies. As soon, however, as tragedy and comedy appeared in the feet, those naturally drawn to the one line of poetry became writers of comedies instead of lamps, and those naturally drawn to the others writers of tragedy instead of epic, because these new modes of art were grander and of more esteems than the old. It is to be asked whether tragedy is no all that it need be in it formative elements to consider that the decide it theoretically and in relation to the theaters is a meters of another inquiry. Tragedy advanced by a slow degree. Each no element that revealed itself was in turn developed. Having passed through any changes, it found form and there is it stop. Exclus increased the action to two. Sophocles added a third actor and scenery. Tragedy gained magnitude and it meters change for from to iambic. Okay, do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.